Hello, you all. Welcome to another episode of No One Asked. I'm your host, Callista Robinson, and today we are going to be talking about the history of ocean rowers. For our history in the making segment, we are going to be talking about Kelsey Pfendler. She is an ocean rower who just broke the record and is the first American woman to row from California to Hawaii. She left from Monterey, California, and landed in Honolulu, Hawaii. She completed the row in 43 days, 17 hours, and 55 minutes. The record before that was from Leah Ditton in 2020. She made that exact same route in 86 days, 10 hours, and 5 minutes. So, needless to say, Kelsey crushed that record. So, let's talk about her past a little bit and how she got to be where she was, that she was able to make this trek across the Pacific Ocean. Miss Kelsey grew up swimming, but she did not grow up being much of an ocean rower whatsoever. I mean, pretty sure no one really knows many ocean rowers as a kid. If you do, let me know, because that is very interesting. I grew up in a landlocked state, so we didn't have many ocean rowers growing up where I was. So on her 18th birthday, she went on a whitewater rafting trip and was hooked at that point. And after that point, she was volunteering where she went on that whitewater rafting trip all summer long. So that's how she got hooked into water sports. She then went on to pursue whitewater rafting as a career. She worked at Arkansas River in Colorado as a whitewater rafting instructor, and then she went on to be a professional Grand Canyon river guide, and she did that for almost a decade. Those of you who don't know, that is where some of the most challenging whitewater rafting is. But then after this, she actually competed on Team USA for whitewater rafting. She competed as in the World Rafting Championships in Bosnia, and USA won multiple medals and finished an overall second in Bosnia. So fast forwarding in 2019, she was traveling to Spain and she wanted to find a boat to volunteer on. I guess this was her just, looking for some international travel. Sounds like a lot of fun. And they stopped. She did volunteer on a sailboat, and they stopped in Cabo Verde. And this is whenever she whenever she got exposed to ocean rowing for the first time. And I think she just really loved it. And so she wanted to give it a chance. And so she stuck with it for a couple of years, did that for a while. And in 2024, she captained a 4-woman team in the world's toughest row across the Pacific from California to Kauai. And ironically, she was really sad that it was over, which is funny because I think most of us would probably not want to be on the ocean that long. But obviously, this woman is obsessed with the boating life, okay? So she had already actually done this trek before with a team of 4. But now she blew up and got really famous for doing it solo. So as you guys already know, Kelsey Pfendler left on May 21st and arrived July 3rd. Her birthday is actually July 5th, so she got back just in time to celebrate her 32nd birthday. Now, back to her whitewater rafting days, I just want you guys to look up their uniforms. They are so patriotic. They have skin-tight pants. One side is complete stripes of the American flag, and then one side is complete stars of the American flag. Now we're going to talk about other famous ocean rowers that came before Miss Kelsey. We are going to start by talking about Sylvia Cook today. She is the first woman to cross any ocean and the first person to row across the Pacific Ocean. She did not row across the Pacific Ocean solo. There isn't a ton of information about her growing up, but she was born in the United Kingdom, Her dad was a teacher and her mom was a secretary, and she didn't become an ocean rower until later in life. So Sylvia worked as a secretary in London, and she reached a point in time where she just wanted to do something that was challenging and really pushed herself and wanted to see what she was physically capable of. So she got into ocean rowing. John Fairfax was already a pretty famous adventurer, and he was the first person to row solo across the Atlantic. He placed an advertisement in the paper asking for help to plan another expedition. And Sylvia responded not even with the intention of going on this expedition, but she just thought it would be fun to help plan this project. So while they were working on this project together, they fell in love, and John invited her to row across the Pacific Ocean with him, and she obviously accepted. Even though she had no rowing experience or boating experience, to my knowledge. Maybe we could ask her, you know? So on April 26th, 1971, Sylvia and John left San Francisco in their specially designed rowing boat. The name of the boat was Britannia II, and they set out at sea. So after nearly a year at sea, they arrived at Hayman Island in Australia on April 22nd, 1992. So they were the first people to row across the Pacific Ocean. Sylvia became the first woman to ever row across any ocean, and they spent 361 to 363 days on the expeditions. Sources differ slightly in how they count stops and repairs. And the miles that they covered, 6,300 miles. Wow, guys, I could not even imagine being on an ocean with one other person for a whole year. They only saw one person. They only saw each other for 1 year. That's crazy. Also, extremely scary. They have to deal with storms. They have to deal with limited food supplies. I mean, what happens if they accidentally spilled all their food overboard? Anyways, and also you have to have some type of physical capability to withstand that. So where are Sylvia and John now? John unfortunately passed away in 2012 at the age of 74, and Sylvia is retired. Whenever she got back from her expedition, she just went back to working at a hardware store, but she retired from being a headmistress and is still retired in England. So, what an interesting story. Oh, and they did break up. So, I know you guys were wondering. They did break up. Okay, next up, we are going to be talking about the woman who was the first woman to row solo across the Pacific Ocean, Roz Savage. That name is just such a good name for an ocean rower, I feel like. Roz Savage, wow. Roz Savage grew up in England. Her father was a Methodist minister and her mother was a Methodist deaconess. I don't even know what Methodist deaconess consists of being, but I guess she just helped at the Methodist church. She moved around a lot for church assignments as a kid, so maybe that kind of set her up well for a life at sea, because I feel like as you're moving around a lot as a kid, you have to learn how to be adaptable, how to make new friends, how to be comfortable and at different schools and whatnot. She didn't grow up as any type of water athlete or swimmer or whatnot. I mean, I'm sure she knew how to swim because, I mean, that would be pretty dangerous if she didn't know how to swim. Anyways, but she began rowing while she was studying at law at the University of Oxford. She earned 2 Oxford half blues representing the university in prestigious rowing races. Wow. She's a natural born rower, obviously. She also competed in both the New York Marathon and London Marathon, finishing as top among the women. Wow. That's also pretty impressive. Shout out to my sister who's running the New York City Marathon this year. I'll be attending. For 11 years, Roz worked as a management consultant, okay? Versatile, okay? She had a successful career and had all the luxurious thing, but she thought something was missing, okay? So she set out to row again, okay? I mean, she's really good at it. So don't do us a disservice. Get out there and row. This decision of her leaving her life of her job and her comfortable house and her relationship, she wrote two versions of her obituary, and she wrote one where she lived this basic life and then one where she lived a very adventurous life. And I guess she read the two and decided that she'd rather have an adventurous life. So here we go. She went on to row solo across the Atlantic Ocean. She rowed over 3,000 miles and spent 103 days alone at sea, becoming the first woman to row across the Atlantic Ocean. She rowed from the US mainland to the UK. So she rode solo from California to Hawaii, from then Hawaii to Kiribati to then Papua New Guinea. In 2011, she rode solo across the Indian Ocean from Australia to Mauritius, which is a country in East Africa. After this voyage, she was the first and still the only woman to row solo across the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Ocean. She rowed approximately 15,000 miles, took around 5 million oar strokes, and spent more than 500 days alone at sea and earned 4 Guinness World Records. Here are some awards that she got. National Geographic Adventure of the Year in 2010, member of the Order of the British Empire in 2013 for services to fundraising and helping the environment. She is author of 2 best-selling books. She's a TED Talk speaker and an environmental advocate. The next person that I want to talk about is Fiann Paul, because he was the first person to put together a co-ed team that made a huge accomplishment across the Atlantic Ocean. He grew up in Warsaw, Poland, and he did not grow up as an ocean rower either. And he also said that he was interested in sports, but he also was interested in architecture and psychology and art. And he moved to Iceland in the mid 2000s, and he actually changed his name to Fiann Paul whenever he moved. He did not really start ocean rowing until about 2007. Before this, he was working with a charitable foundation in Africa, and he had become involved on an ocean rowing project, which exposed him to ocean rowing. He quickly realized that he had a good talent for this, and he started to chase world records whenever he found out he was pretty talented at this. So he helped cross the Atlantic Ocean in 2011. He did this with a crew, and they were the fastest team to cross the Atlantic in history in 2011. He crossed the Indian Ocean. He also set a speed record for that. He also crossed the Pacific Ocean in 2016, and they also broke their record in crossing this the fastest as well. He became one of the first people to hold the speed records for the Atlantic, Indian, and Pacific Ocean. In 2017, Fiann led the first successful open water rowing expedition across the Arctic Ocean, and he also set the overall Arctic Ocean speed record. Well, obviously, if they're the first ones to do it, they're going to set the speed record as well, right? He also rowed across the Southern Ocean and Antarctica in 2019. This was perhaps his greatest accomplishment because it was the first human-powered crossing of the Drake's Passage. Anytime you row across the Antarctic Ocean, I just assume that has got to be extremely challenging because it's cold. I mean, you have to be out there overnight. It's freezing. I mean, That is very challenging. I can't even imagine. How do you even do that? How do you even stay? You know what? They're gonna have to give us a tour of how they stayed warm out there for several days, okay? He broke over 40 Guinness World Records and was the first person to complete the Ocean Explorer's Grand Slam. He had rowed all over 5 oceans. Something else that I found that was interesting is this is the equivalent to running more than 300 marathons. Now, Fiann also rowed across the Arctic Ocean in 2023, and he did this with a crew which had the first woman on it who was going to be the first woman to successfully row across the Antarctic. The team was referred to as Miss Chippy, which consisted of Fiann, obviously, Dr. Mike Maston, who was an experienced endurance rower from the United States, Jamie Douglas Hamilton, a British rower, who was very accomplished and just did this row after he underwent open heart surgery. Stefan Ivanov, a highly accomplished endurance athlete and ocean rower from Bulgaria, and Brian Krustikov, a veteran ocean rower from the United States who already held previous Atlantic rowing records, and Lisa Fairthifer. Now, Lisa Fairthifer was an elite professional rower from Australia. She was a rower from a really young age. Under the age of 15, she broke the 1,000-meter record for an indoor rower. And she also won over 5 championship medals at the junior and U23 levels, including a gold medal in the double sculls. She was also a dual athlete who rowed and sailed, but then later just decided to focus on more of the sailing side. Whenever she went on this expedition in 2023, it was slightly cut short about the halfway point due to severe crew illness and injuries, despite navigating sub-zero temperatures and being absolutely soaked and having no shelter to dry it out. And once again, this is the Arctic Ocean, so it is freezing. She suffered from severe frost tip and broke several toes during her continuous 90-minute rowing shifts and was unaware of the fractures because her feet were completely frozen. That is crazy. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening to No One Asked. I thought this was a really interesting episode because not all of these rowers started being amazing athletes right after they were born. Rowing it is very physically challenging, and you also have to be intelligent to navigate these waters. And I'm just so impressed with how these people got to be professional rowers without really growing up even doing it at all. So this is just an inspiration for everyone, me and you all. It's not too late, guys. Go out there, set the record, achieve your dreams, okay? Thank you for listening. No One Asked. Have a good rest of your day. Bye now.